everybody. Today we have I believe he is our first guest on our podcast, and he's one of our favorites. He's definitely the first one returning, right, Kellie?
Yep.
Mr.
He was
Jon.
in such demand that we had to bring him back. He's got so much going on. We got to hear more.
Exactly. Jon D'Amore, right? D'Amore.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Good to see you, Jon.
Good seeing you both. Wonderful seeing you.
Put a little sunshine in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? I know you have a new book that you got out, right?
Well, you know, you're the interviewer.
Yeah.
I can talk about.
We want to hear about your new book.
Talk about whatever you want.
You co-wrote the new book, right? You wrote it with someone else.
Well, no, I wrote the book by myself.
Okay.
It came from a screenplay that was written by me and somebody else.
Okay.
Somebody else.
Laura Fumino. Yes.
Who was it that you wrote it with?
She wrote it. She did a great job, and
sorry, Jon. She didn't hear the name. It's Laura Fumino. Laura Fumino.
Laura Fumino. Oh, okay. We know Laura. She's an old friend of you guys. Okay.
And so yeah, Laura came to me, I don't know, a decade ago. Seems a little longer, but I think that's what it was. And we just met one another. If you really want to know how it happened, how we met, folks, buy the book. She wrote the foreword, and she tells the entire story about how we met at a printing shop in North Hollywood, California.
And the good old Valley.
Absolutely. So you know, she saw my last name on the cover of one of I was probably running off a copy of my screenplay for The Boss Always Sits in the Back, and she saw my name on the cover, and you know, she's Italian, I'm Italian. She immediately started speaking to me in Italian under the assumption I know anything more than just the curses that I heard my parents and my aunts and uncles say when I was a kid. So I just told her I don't have a clue what you're saying, and fortunately she broke into perfect English. And then you know, told me about we chatted for a little bit, and she told me about an idea she had for a screenplay that you know, she had just reached a point at after only 20 or 22 pages, something like that, and just didn't know where to go after that. And by this time, I was doing my script doctor work for the screenplays and the production companies. And so she came to me going, you know, what should I do? And you want to work on this together? And
if you like our videos, go ahead and click on like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
And, you know, I don't have to tell either of you who've lived in LA and Southern California that when you're in that business, you are constantly approached by people who once you have an in the industry, like I was fortunate enough to have, they immediately, can you help me write my screenplay? Write my screenplay with me. Help me. But I never wanted to really turn people down, especially Italian women.
Pretty Italian women.
And they don't necessarily have to be Italian. But anyway, so I figured, as I would normally do to when friends would approach me, I'd say, okay, you know, send me the first 15, 20 pages. In Laura's case, it was like, send me everything you got. And so like I says, it was only like max 22 pages. So, and normally it would be something that I would go, okay, it's full of problems. You know, I would just use an entire pen on the first 10 pages, you know, to make my edits and stuff. And oddly enough, you know, Laura's was a really good story, and it was well written. She just, you know, she just had some minor flaws that I was able to take, and we expanded on it. And so we did write the screenplay together. So that's where that came from. But now, you know, years later, oddly enough, more recently, the new advent of Netflix a director dealing with Netflix right now is asking for the script, but has certain guidelines, like all the cursing needs to be taken out. So now it's only like 5 pages long. No, I'm joking. So all the cursing had to be taken out, and of course the sex scenes, and then they have a page count limit that they want it to go to fit into certain time elements, and that's it. So the tough part now is taking a 116-page script and chopping a dozen or two pages off of it. But being the amazing writer and script doctor that I am, I will do it.
Duty calls.
Absolutely. But the great part about writing the book, when I decided, let me take this screenplay, and again, those of you who've worked in the industry, or even those of you who haven't, can understand, in a screenplay, you need to give the skeleton of the story. Tell as much as you can, but you can't expand too much on character development. You need to get right there to it. So in a screenplay where you're limited to a page count, writing a book, I had no limit whatsoever. I could take 8 pages to say what 1/2 of a screenplay page would say, and it was wonderful. So I literally took the screenplay, and as it says on the cover, it was based on a story from me and Laura, so that's cool. But I took the story and blew it out immensely. And it turned out to be one damn good story. And obviously I'm not speaking from my point of view, because every writer thinks what they write is gold, so.
How would you classify Rubdown? Is it a thriller? Is it a...
That's really an interesting question, because I was just on with with the formatter today, who does all the work turning it into an ebook and all that, and we had to set it up on Barnes and Noble and iTunes and Amazon, and they asked the same questions, for keywords and stuff like that. What do you see it as? Well, it definitely is fiction. It is definitely has a female protagonist, which is great, because it just tells a wonderful story of a woman who had been screwed over in life and gets revenge, gets what everybody wants in the end, and then let's see. So it is a thriller.
Good.
I did put it under suspense. I also put it under erotica. Okay, if you take into consideration that it's called Rubdown, and which and a lot of it takes place in the very elite men's club. Unfortunately the female protagonist gets nailed in or caught in, even though she's extremely innocent.
Right.
It's the most I'll tell you about the story,
Can I read what it says on your website about it?
Kelly, I was just thinking, why don't you read what it says on my website about that?
Well, just the line that says, a story of innocence, sex, betrayal, romance, trust, murder, and secret identities. So it sounds like it's got everything that you could want.
Absolutely. It
a little bit of everything.
Does. It absolutely does.
Juicy stuff.
Yeah, it is. I can vouch. I actually heard a little bit about this project when you and Laura were first writing the screenplay, I believe.
We had readings for it, weren't you?
I don't know if I was in the reading, but I remember hearing about the story, and I know it's based on someone's personal experience, I believe. Isn't that true? Someone that she knew.
Now that it's been chopped down and edited so much, I think if that were to be true, it's probably about 2 paragraphs, or maybe about a half a page of what it was.
Is that what they call inspired by true events? No, I don't know.
Call it whatever you want,
Yeah. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Even in Deadfellas, in my book Deadfellas, which winds up in the last 3 chapters having zombies in it, except for the zombies, in all stories that have been written, there's some truth. There's there's somebody's story in there. I mean, somewhere the person who wrote or developed or even thought about Casablanca had to have experienced, he may not have been in Casablanca, but he experienced a woman that he loved who turned out to be married, or, went to a train station and had a letter that, ran in the rain,
Good point. Yeah.
Something like that. There has to be that in every story. Certainly in all now 5 of my books, there's a little bit of truth in everything. There has to be. You need that in order to, as your seed, even if it's not the primary seed, it might be a branch later on, but you need something to grow from.
Right. And it's got to relate to the human experience, something that people relate to.
Absolutely.
In their lives.
True.
Yes.
Well, okay, so you have 5 books. What are they? What are your 5 books? Rubdown's the newest one. And then where did you start? What was the first one?
Well, the first one was my memoir that really started all this, because when I wrote the manuscript for The Boss Always Sits in the Back.
Yeah.
Which I have on my shelf right there. I have on my shelf.
That was a true story. Thank you very much. That's a true story. And it actually was something that took place with members of my family back in New Jersey. And when I was 22 years old, I was asked to be a part of this scam that they were pulling off in Las Vegas in the mid 1970s. So you can figure it out for yourself, folks. New Jersey, Italian, think about it. But
Mafia.
They were much more connected. I just did it because I was sort of, the innocent who just happened to be related to one of the people who was in charge.
I was gonna say you were a rock and roller too, so you had a good heart.
Exactly. I was more into my music life at that time. So I did get to have a little bit of the best of both worlds. In all honesty, and it was wonderful. And again, I was 22 years old. It was the mid 1970s. Life was still a lot of fun, folks, and especially for a 22-year-old musician. So anyway.
Yes, we've heard a few of those stories.
People always say, you should write a book about all that. I was like, man, that book has been written by so many other musicians that mine would pale by comparison, So anyway, so I wrote The Boss and didn't really plan on writing anything after that. And after I published it, I had an amazing run of luck with it for a self-published book, in that I was touring with it for like 3.5 years, where the average writer who writes a book, whether it's self-published or it's, or Random House publishes it, they're happy if they get a good 6 to 10 months out of it, and then they have this obligation to write something else, or, here today, gone later today, and so I had this run of amazing luck. And I always said it was because America really did, regardless of, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say regardless of where you are in America, but there are places in America who just don't care about things like the mafia, but a bulk of America has a romantic fascination with the mafia in some fashion. I do believe that it is fading. Those kinds of movies have pretty much had their day.
Well, there's a show on right now, Netflix, Fargo, and they just did a big storyline about the mob that goes into Kansas City. and all the different ethnic groups. You know, starts off with, I think, the Jews, and then the Irish, and then the Italians, and the
Right.
Black.
And that's exactly what happened. And in the towards the end of the book of The Boss, I talk about that, about how the Italian mafia of what, you know, we saw as the Edward G. Robinson, James Cagney movies of the 30s and 40s and stuff, and then into the 50s of what they considered organized crime, but they wouldn't say the word mafia. And then you come into the 70s and the Godfather era with real, you know, people who knew what they were doing about making these movies and acting in these movies. So you had the early 70s to maybe like the mid 90s of really decent movies of that genre. But now, and you know, sorry, Mr. Scorsese, if you see this, I hope you got paid a lot of money for
The
what was
Irishman.
it?
The Irishman.
The Irishman. Yeah, because it was 3 hours of time that I'll never have back again. And you know, it was everything that I know. The person who wrote it has a great track record for films, but as I sat there watching it, as I'm sure many people did, because you know the reviews of it were, if you knew about mob movies, it was here, and if you just were like, you know, from Omaha, Nebraska, and wanted to hear about that kind of stuff, it was up here. So you know, you won with your number of happy audience, but with the people who really knew the difference, especially writers, everything that we were taught as writers, get in late, get out early for each scene, did not apply in that movie. There was a good, I would say, 40 minutes that could have been chopped from that. But, you know, Netflix paid for it. They had the airtime. They certainly had the money to pay for a top-notch cast and make it in a great period piece.
I liked it. I liked seeing Joe Pesci again. I liked seeing Joe Pesci again, you know, because I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, well, yeah. And
I just happened
someday I can tell you the story as to why you haven't seen him in a while.
Okay, that'll be for our next podcast.
Next time.
You know, he was, but anyway, so so the point is this. So I wrote the manuscript for The Boss, and just, you know, that was it. And I had that wonderful time with it. But then people started hitting me with, well, what's your next book? What, you know, you're going to write another story about these guys? And I couldn't. Those guys were done. That was what I wrote about, was their apex. They did not do anything better than that, or they were dead because of that. Not because I wrote the book, but they were dead because of what happened that caused me to write the book, the reasons. So I didn't want to write that, but I had some stories left over that I didn't use for The Boss. And my friend Steve and I, Steve Barr, we wrote a screenplay for Dead Fellas. And again, you needed to compress everything down to, I think Dead Fellas is like an 89-page screenplay or something. So you couldn't tell all these great stories. So when I decided to turn it into a book, I had, you know, instead of the screenplay starting in 2002 and telling a little backstory so that you understand why these guys owned this big cabin in the Shoshone Mountains of Nevada since the late 1950s. In the book, I actually started in the 1950s and show that they are buying this place and had it built, and the things that happened over the generations, so that over time, over 40 years or whatever it might have been, over 200 dead mafia people had been buried on the grounds of this house that would eventually lead to them being zombies.
Ah,
So
good old zombie story.
I like that.
so I so I got to do that with that story, and so I put out Deadfellas, and to be honest with you, a lot of people were like, I don't want to read about zombies, and uh, until they read it. And actually, what had happened was the following year, I put out The Delivery Man, a non-mafia movie. Still had, it was about a vigilante who went around doing, getting justice for people who had done wrong to innocent people. And so people read that, because they all knew somebody, if they hadn't gotten screwed over in life in the first place, they knew somebody who had gotten screwed over in their life. So they sort of liked The Delivery Man. So they read The Boss and they liked The Delivery Man. And, a lot of them were like, well, let me give this other book his a try. And, because it's Deadfellas, I wrote it in 13 chapters. And the zombies don't come in until the last 3 chapters. So by the time you get into the 10th chapter, you're already deep into mafia lore and this story. And then all of a sudden things happen. And I kid you not, folks, it is a fun story. And it's not your standard Walking Dead drooling goo out of their mouth type stuff. So for those of you who might like that. And oddly enough, there is after the book came out and stuff, I found out that there is a rather decent, I won't say large, but a decent sized mob zombie group
Genre?
out there.
Oh,
that,
okay.
They love the mob on one hand, and oh my gosh,
Like
zombies
too. Bonus.
Oh my gosh, who knew? Who knew?
Yeah.
So I so like I said, so then I put The Delivery Man out, and that did fine, and I got to tour on that, and that was 2 years ago. And then over the holidays, over the last holidays, 2019 to 2020, I had finished As Long as I Have Lips, which again,
Right.
completely different genre. I think we talked about that the last time I was on your show. It's a romantic comedy. Nobody dies. There's no zombies. There's no vigilante who comes to kill you. And it was just a romantic comedy about the advertising industry.
Oh,
and
yeah. Right.
So that was a lot of fun, and I was all booked to go tour for that. I was going to be in LA in April. I was a featured speaker at the USC Book Fair that happens every year.
Yeah, I went to that one time. That's nice.
Yeah, and I was supposed to be a featured speaker, and I was going to be on a panel of things, and which was going to happen in April. And so here I was booking all of this stuff in January and February. And I was from LA, I was going to go right to New York and New Jersey, where you could tell by my accent, folks, I'm very well received. So I would do a bunch of readings there, and had booked those. And then lo and behold came the end of February, where everything got shut down. And so I never got to do my tour, or even LA and New York situation for As Long as I Have Lips. So I wound up sitting at home, and I got this other script that's just sitting here. And I contacted Laura, and I said, Laura, do you mind if I write a book? And of course, we're all happy just to have product out there. Sure. And so she had no problem with it, and I took our screenplay and blew it out into a manuscript, and sent it out to a few editors, and they were like, "This is a really good story. This is on the edge, one of those I'm on the edge of my seat type stuff." And so I decided to put that out. But in the meantime, while all of that was happening, because I couldn't tour, and touring and getting in front of an audience, certainly Kimbra as an entertainer can understand this. It's what we live to do. The fact that, you know, it's always funny when I think about when I was a musician, and not counting the really good days where I made insane money for showing up in a studio for 3 hours and making more than my father did for working 4 weeks in a factory. When you start off as a musician, you're happy making $50 or $100 a night and schlepping your own instruments and amplifiers and PA systems. And I find that now, and that was in the early to mid 70s when I was doing it. I find that musicians today in 2019, 2020 are still schlepping their stuff around and still happy to make $100 a night.
If they make any money at all, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, the love of the art, the love of doing.
Yeah. And the love of the audience. If you know, because they'll let you know if you're not good at it.
Yeah.
And that's just it. You know, when I was a musician, we were always welcome. You know, it was always a great time. And then when I started doing this for my readings, the Zoom or even just readings in front of an audience, you know, I talked to writers who would get, I don't know, 10, 12, even at a place like, what is that in Hollywood, a Book Soup or something like that?
Right, Book Soup in West Hollywood, yeah.
You know, they'd be happy if they get 15, maybe 20 people come to their book readings.
Mm-hmm,
you know? When I did my book reading in LA the first time, in the Valley, oddly enough, because Book Soup wanted to rape me, for what they wanted. But anyway, but I did it in the Valley, and I had at my first reading 79 people.
Wow.
You know, and then when I went to New Jersey, when I constantly go to New Jersey, there are places there where I'll easily get over 60, 65 people constantly.
There's that place in Burbank you used to do also.
Oh, there you go. And when I did come back to do a boss reading and then Dead Fellas and then The Delivery Man, that's a great story, but I don't want to waste a lot of your time on this, but that's actually a great story. I'm trying to think. We were having somewhat of a problem getting booked in LA bookstores, you know, Barnes and Noble. No offense, Barnes and Noble, but you don't make it easy for self-published authors. And then, and you know, just allowing us to stand there and sign books and not do a presentation takes a lot away. Okay, but then there were other places like Book Soup and Vromans, who, you know, I sort of, let's just say that I'm still probably persona non grata when I contacted the vice president of that company that owns those places and told them that based on their contract and the money that they wanted up front from a self-published author, I said to him, I said, there's some guys back in New Jersey I know who are doing time for extortion for asking less than what you asked for.
He needs to read your book.
I know, right?
Boss always sits in the back.
And the thing is, you know, I was telling them I will bring people into your store that have never been there before.
Right.
And you're going to get 40% of my book.
Yeah.
They wanted money on top of that, and so I just said no, it wasn't going to happen. And lo and behold, the reading that I arranged, like I said, had like 76, 79 people show up that would have shown up at that bookstore. Okay, you know.
Well, you know what? That reminds me. I do want to bring up before we sum everything up our book, Kimbra.
Yes.
Tales of the Lioness.
Right.
So I composed. I can't remember when. About 10, 12 years ago. I got 19 stories from women who had gone through fierce battles in life, and they overcame them with great courage. And so I got those stories and did some editing to each one. And Kimbra wrote a story, and I wrote a couple stories.
You did a great job.
Jon, I don't know if you remember this, but this was my introduction to you. You wrote one of our little quotes
That's
by the men,
right.
and I pulled it up. I'm going to read it. So this is Jon's quote in our Tales of the Lioness book. It
Okay.
says, "Women, I've lost my heart, my mind, a fortune, homes, careers, and friendships over them. Yet I long to be in an intelligent woman's company, life and heart. Life
Aw.
life may teach us many lessons, but then there are women." I love
Aw.
that. It was
It's
perfect for our
beautiful.
book. Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
just so
Great
poetic.
job, Jon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a writer. I'm a writer.
That's
You
what I
are.
do.
You're good with
And
words. You're good with
my
words.
last name means love. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
You know, you got it all out of me
Yep.
for that. So
Now,
look, just so you know, Kelly, you know those women in the event. You know, they probably going what they went through in life that warranted them to write each of them write their stories for that. They would all love a copy of Rubdown, and you and I should talk about that.
aha.
I'll give
Okay.
you such a deal. But
Hey, not bad. In time for the holidays because we got to celebrate, right?
Well,
Now-
yeah, this would be a good gift.
So,
The lady in your life.
So that's what brought us to. So in Burbank, I was going to do a reading, and we couldn't find a place to do it that didn't want to ask for an abominable amount of money up
Sure.
front, because I'm self-published, and and they just know that they can take it. They think that all self-published authors it's a vanity project for us. Oh, look,
Sure.
Mom, I have a book on Amazon.
Right.
No, it's not like that at all. It's something. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written 5 books and did it the way I did it. But the point.
If you like our videos, go ahead and click on like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, so when I was coming back to LA to do some readings, I couldn't find a place. Just couldn't find a place. So a friend of mine was a sometime comedian, and he said he was friends with the owner of a place in Burbank called Flappers, which is a very cool place, very large. I asked him, does it have a room because I had never been there, does it have a room where I could put in like 50, 60 people or so? And he said, sure, they have one room that holds, I believe it was 65, another one that holds 200. Okay, so I contacted the owner, a very wonderful woman, and she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to come and do a reading." And she goes, we've never done a reading in our club before." And I says, "Not only that, but I want to do it on a Saturday at about noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because obviously where they are in Burbank, they have all of these parking lots there because of all the shopping and stuff. So it's a great place. It's easy for people to park and then come right into the club. It was great. So she said, we've never done that, and I don't know if it's worth my time, meaning the club's time. I says, tell me what you need to make it worth your time. She says, well, I need, I think it was like 300 or 400 something dollars, a guarantee to put against my credit card to pay for the kitchen help, the bartender, a waitress, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, because I knew that they were going to serve food. And I know that from historically, whenever I did these events in restaurants, the restaurants just exceeded what they would normally do for that time of day. So I said, and she says, now you got to guarantee me, I think it was like 40 or 45 people. And I says, and I had already promoted what I was going to be doing coming to LA. So I already knew that I would have that number of people. We just didn't know where it was going to be yet. So I said, yeah, okay, no problem. So she takes a credit card number, and I got some books shipped out there, and I went out to LA, and the room held 65, and there were people lined up around the entire room. They were just, every seat was
I can vouch
taken.
for that because I was there.
Everybody was like standing against the door of the wall where there was available wall space. And then there were people outside where the doors are to come into the room, standing in the doorway to come, to watch.
Wow.
So when it was all said and done, I said to the woman, "You're going to hit my credit card?" She goes, "Are you crazy?" She says, I did better on a Saturday afternoon when I'm not even open than this room normally does on a Saturday night.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, that's cool. So I did Flappers, and then the following year, and if I'm not mistaken, the first time I did Flappers, Chris Carter, who hosts Breakfast with the Beatles, and then just on KLOS, but now, of course, on Sirius XM. He does that for on the Beatle channel too. Well, he introduced me because not only is he a friend, I am a monster Beatle fan. So he introduced me, and that was great. And then the following year, I went back and did Deadfellas, and instead of having Chris, I had an even closer connection to the Beatles by having Tim Piper, who was the star of Just Imagine.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yes, and he's the star of Just Imagine, and he portrays John Lennon better than I've seen, anyone portray John Lennon. And he got up, and of course he pulled me up, and we did a song, and so that was great. And of course I filled it again, and I called her up, and I said, "Do you want my credit card?" She goes, "No, you just come back in, you're fine." So I came in, did Deadfellas, filled the room again. The following year, I did The Delivery Man. Tim Piper introduced me again. We did a different song together. And same deal. I filled the room, always with 60 or more people. And folks, this is what you do if you're a self-published author and you're being extorted by bookstores because they want to not just take 40% from you, but also they want you to pay for any kind of advertising that you need to pay for, that they will even put in writing. They can't guarantee you an audience. They expect you to bring your own audience in. So get your own audience, go someplace, do it, and make whatever you can off of your books after you print and ship them and promote the hell out of them the best you can. So anyway, so I did that for The Delivery Man. And of course, I was booked to do it again for as long as I have Lips. And then, like I said earlier, we had to cancel the Lips tour and stuff. So that's that. So then when I had to cancel the Lips tour, I was, what can I do? What can I do to get in front of people? And the funny thing is, if you think about it, a year ago, you never heard of Zoom. You never heard of Zoom at all. Everybody, if you did it, it was something called FaceTime, and then you did it on Skype.
Right.
Right.
And then Facebook video came along at some point, and you would get together with people on that. But then a pandemic hits, so now everybody's doing Zoom, and so I thought about it. I was like, what can I do? And so I did a test Zoom reading, for the area where I was living, and put out an email to the locals saying, going to do this, and then got together with the people who produce or who put together and build and format my books, and they're knowledgeable in what you do. None of us are as well lit as you two are. I just want you to know that. No matter who I deal with, no.
Well, we've been studying and practicing this. You know what I'm saying?
I understand that, and that's why I enjoy doing your show. You're the most professional. I assure you.
Thank you.
Oh no, I know. I've done some Zoom with some people. It looks like they're in a cave or in a dream, and I'm like,
I know. I did a local thing through them. I let them run it so that it starts off with, me on my screen, not just that image that goes up when you're not on the screen, like this, folks. There you go. So I have that up. And then with each of my books, I've been very fortunate in that talented friends of mine from the music industry have written songs to go along with my books. So I'll play that as an introduction, and not with the original lips, as long as I have lips readings, but more recently with the ones that I've been doing now with all of my books. Some well-known people have come forward and introduced me. After the song fades, they'll come on. Hi, I'm so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. And I've known John since, and he's a lunatic, and he never knows when to shut up. But here he is, Jon D'Amore. And I'll go on, and as both of you have seen, I do like an 18 to 20-minute reading and I did that for Lips for a few weeks to promote the book. It was fun. I got in front of a lot of people, but certainly not as many as if I went on the road, and we weren't limited, in the way that we are. So I had fun doing it. In the meantime, like we talked about, Rubdown was getting ready to come out, but then ever the marketer that I am, Thanksgiving and Christmas were coming up, and there's a reason why I do sell the number of books that I sell, is because you got to know your market, and you have to be able to, you may not be able to take out a TV advertisement, but fortunately through social media, you can let your buying public know, or the people that you are interested in books know. And so for the last few weeks, I've been having readings of my 4 other books, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, not the following week, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, which I just finished one earlier today. I did the delivery. I did As Long as I Have Lips. Tomorrow, I'm doing The Boss Always Sits in the Back. But what I really would like to talk about is the one that I'm doing next week, which I believe is the 12th and 13th, I guess it will be.
Yes, that would be next weekend, 12th and 13th.
Yeah, 12th and 13th, I'm doing both days at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific, and you figure out the rest in between, regardless of where you are.
You central people.
And Mountain, don't forget Mountain.
Oh yes.
And I do a 20-minute reading of Rubdown, which will be the first readings of Rubdown, and they are available for purchase now, which is cool. Okay. And I've had a very good run of advanced sales on that. So,
are you going to be doing this through Facebook Live or Zoom or?
No, they're all done through Zoom.
Okay, Zoom.
But the best place to find the links, folks, if you want to, is by going to a Facebook page called The Books of Jon D'Amore, and Jon is Jon. Mm-hmm. D'Amore is D''Amore. Or my page, my personal page, is open to the public, and you can just go to Jon D'Amore on Facebook, and easily you'll find a post about my readings, specifically for the ones I'll be doing next week or the week that you see this. So
that's right. It's going to be out very soon.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's great. That's great. You're staying busy, that's for sure, right?
I'm staying busy because now that I'm done with Rubdown, the book covers obviously had to be done. The front and back cover had to be put together, and I'm pretty much, Rubdown's done. Now the only thing writers worry about is that first box that gets delivered of books. and you pick it, you grab the first one and you look at the cover, and then you open it and you make sure that the interior is not upside down, or that, everything is the way you hoped it would be. And I've been very lucky with that, with the company that I use. If anybody out there is writing a book and needs a book formatter, I highly recommend Genius Book Services. Just go to geniusbookservices.com, and they've done all 5 of my books and hundreds of others. And excellent people.
And Jon is very particular. I can vouch for that. So
they
they're going to be
also,
good.
thank you. They will also tell you that. I have my own style of the way I want my interior pages laid out, the chapter headings. I'm the only person they know that has a cast of characters at the end of each book.
Okay.
Because I started that with The Boss Always Sits in the Back. Because, people like, Kellie Richardson or Kimbra Westervelt aren't always good with the Italian last names when you put 40 or 50 of them in a book together. So I had a cast of characters in the back in case you didn't know, you forgot who you were reading about. Who was this guy again? Go to the back of the book,
right.
Look him up, see what family he might have been connected with, or who he is in the story. And people have found that to be helpful. So I've done that in every book since then. And what's even funnier is in Deadfellas, I talk about these guys again. These were mafia guys in Deadfellas, but much more of a comedy, who sit around and make what everybody outside of New York and certain boroughs of Manhattan called sauce, we would call gravy. And so we would have a thing called Sunday gravy that you would make with meatballs and sausage and everything else for your what nowadays is just called pasta. We called it macaroni, spaghetti, macaroni, and so in the back of Deadfellas, I have an actual very authentic New Jersey Sunday pasta recipe. So
Jon's a pretty good cook. I've had some things he's made. He used to organize that the jazz festival. Remember the jazz festival at the Hollywood Bowl?
Yeah.
You'd get all these people. It was like a big annual event, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I would buy. We would get approximately 40 people and buy 50 seats. So that there would be space, and then you'd have room to bring your cooler and all that. We would buy 5 rows of 10 seats together, and every year, and it was just the greatest party. It was.
I know. It was like I said, it was kind of a historical annual event for the D'Amore crowd.
Usually at the end of February or the beginning of March, I would send out this email going, okay, it's that time of year again. This is how much it's going to cost. This is what we're going to do. If you have me, get me your money by this period of time. And once we have enough for 50 seats, we're closing it. And Kimbra, you were at quite a few of those. I have pictures of Kimbra that someday I will use to
hold it against her.
Money.
Because you know how picky I am. Like, no, don't show that picture.
She always has to have photo approval.
I do, just so you guys know out there in podcast land, I have photo approval.
But just so you know, she's never taken a bad photo. Ever.
No, I would disagree with that. But I'm always telling Jon, don't show the one without the makeup. No.
She's always beautiful.
Yeah, that was always a lot of fun. So that's what's going on. You pretty much got the history of my books. So so now I'm writing another book.
Oh wow!
Of course.
So I'm already like 5 or 6 chapters into my next book, and as I did with the first 5, no 2 are actually in the same genre. This one is going to be a science fiction book, and knowing me, it's already leaning towards comedy.
I like that.
A comedic science fiction story.
Okay.
But the good part ends. The good part is I know how it ends already, and Earth blows up. Okay?
Oh, okay.
The
We don't
end
like
of
that,
it
but-
is Earth blows up.
Uh-huh.
But it's not for at least another 5 years from now. So
Oh,
don't
I thought you were going to say
Okay, we
like,
got 5 years.
I
Wow.
thought you were going to say like hundreds of thousands of 5 years. I better get some stuff done.
No, yeah, that's it. But you may want to take out a big mortgage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, do a refi, get the money now.
Spend all your
so-
savings.
So what other questions do you ladies have for me?
I was just going to ask you to, if we haven't said it already, to say your website again too, Jon D'Amore.
You can buy. Thank you, Kimbra. I forgot about that. But you can buy. You can find out everything you want to know about me and more. And purchase my books in combo discount packages.
Mhm.
And if you buy them, obviously through my website, I will sign and personalize them for you. And for the exact same price, you can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, but you won't get them autographed or personalized. So go to www.JonDamore.com, JonD'Amore.com, and it'll take you right to the page. And you'll see, you can walk through the very few, if you go to the photos page, you probably will see several of Kimbra. Just so
Oh
you
God, no.
But, those were all from my LA days. I haven't updated that for some reason, but everything else is updated, and you can go to the buy page. You can go to the books page and read the synopsis for each of my books, and then go to the buy page and buy 1 or 5 in the combo packs, or however many you'd like. And
Now,
that would be wonderful.
Any plans to come out here, in 2021? Have you been thinking about that?
Yes. Yes. Okay. It all comes down to the safety factor.
And when I say here, guys, I mean LA, because he's in.
Yeah, where is Jon?
Yeah,
where are you?
Right now, I'm on the East Coast.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I would say absolutely, because I love to promote the book there. I love seeing my friends there. You know me, and walking along the beach in Malibu, I would just do that because it was, Tuesday afternoon. What are you going to do? Let's go for a walk on the beach in Malibu.
Jon loves Malibu. That's like your little place you go to recharge, right?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, a lot of the book, The Boss Always Sits in the Back, and the screenplay. When I got to LA in 1999 to begin writing what would become the manuscript for the book, I guess I just got tired of hanging out up at that house up on Mulholland Drive.
Oh yeah, that nice house up there.
And I would take my laptop computer and drive out to Malibu and go to a place called Duke's. Okay, and in Duke's, you can either sit in the restaurant or go towards the end. I think it's called the Tiki Bar or something like that.
Oh my God, I love a good tiki bar.
and I would sit out on the sand, under an umbrella, a thatched umbrella, at a table, and they would have plugs. Even though I plugged in the laptop, but they would have plugs, and I would sit there and drink Bloody Marys and eat lunch. And just drink Bloody Marys and just, did I mention drink Bloody Marys?
Yeah.
And take my shoes off and sit in the sand at these tables. And I would just, stream of consciousness, remembering all these things I did back in the late 70s with these guys in Las Vegas and all these side stories that went along. And I wrote chapters and chapters of The Boss while sitting during the day at the Duke's doing that in Malibu, and then I would go back home to the house up on the hill and eat dinner somewhere between, and then go to the hill and do my editing of everything I had written that day. It was really, really. LA is, I don't know if people are aware of, they have these things, you take it for what it's worth, folks. They have things called vortexes, energy vortexes. And they say Sedona, Arizona is an energy vortex. Specifically there, it is a female dominant vortex there. But in LA, it's a creative vortex. And if you have that in you, I mean, not everybody who believes they are creative in LA are creative. But if you really are, and it grabs you like it grabbed me, I was, as Kimbra could testify, I wrote manuscripts and I wrote 5 screenplays within 4 years, 4.5 years, and I would have screenplay readings for them and organize these things, and besides having parties as often as possible for any given reason.
I think that's true, Jon, because as much as people make fun of LA, and there's a lot of people that make fun of LA or complain about LA, the one thing you could say that is true is it's a creative hub. And you know, amongst all the people that think they're creative, there's also a lot of really genuinely talented creative people, and it draws them there.
Well, creativity is encouraged. And
That's
I've
true.
also always had
That's
a theory
true.
that I think at nighttime, because I know a lot of artists that work, songwriters and writers that work at night. And my theory was everybody else is sleeping, so the energy is free and flowing. And so night is
That's
another
true.
good time to
I also
exercise your
found,
creativity.
people out when I was in Santa Fe and part of a writers group, and pretty much anywhere, especially now, in the 21st century, you don't have to be somewhere to do that kind of work. You can do it like, I'm all over the place, and could do it. People have always said to me, why are you so giving? When I need help, why do you offer help? Why do I do these? I do seminars on self-publishing and creative writing and memoir writing. I've been dubbed the king of self-publishing, the king of self-promotion, and I do this for schools. Why do you do that? When people at these writers groups that I belong to, would you look at my script? Would you do this? Would you do that? Why do you do that? And I'll tell you why. Because when I was starting, maybe it was just because of the people that I connected with right away. Because I didn't come to LA as a novice, I was a musician for many years, had been there, had already grown to have a friend base. And I had family out there who had been there since the late 30s, who owned a very well known restaurant, which we talked about the last time I was on here. So, and then in my corporate world, because I was so connected to LA, even though I was working out of Manhattan, LA was my territory. So I came there and I knew my way around. I knew people, but because of who I connected with right away, as far as in the creative end, and I'm talking actors and writers, people were happy to help me. They saw that I didn't come to them with no talent and say, help me get talent. I came to them with an ability, with the talent. And they helped me grow from there. And I think we talked about this the last time. Certainly Kimbra, who is a member of the writers group that I was a member of when I first got there, she can attest to this. People say to me, so where did you learn? How did you learn? And I tell them that always be part of a group and never ask your best friends for their advice, because they'll always give you, the one that you feel best about. Go to the people who don't like you. And I used to go to people in the writers group
that didn't like me.
and who really had a
Well, they'll be more honest.
their butt
Yeah.
about people who, one specifically who, was in the writers group, a young kid, younger than me, who just couldn't believe that somebody at 22 years old, like I was in the book, was doing as well as I could. And but in the end, he gave in and said, but the book is entertaining. And, just because I don't buy into you, because I know you, the character in the book is just fantastic, So go to the people who aren't your friends for a real good review of your story, because if it's really good, even they will tell you it's good. But that's neither here nor there.
That's true.
One of the things that I say when they say, where did you learn, your craft? And I immediately come back and I say, well, not only did I learn from the people who knew more than me, but I learned even more from the people who knew less than me, from the bad writers.
Say that one more time, John. Say that one more time.
I learned even more from the bad writers, because I would sit there, as I'm sure you do, and you sit there and you go, this is terrible. This is just not good.
Right.
And it teaches you what not to do.
Sure.
When people like that are given comments to make their thing better, and they come back a few weeks later and it's just as good, it just teaches you this is a project or that I can't use as an example, or this writer is somebody whose opinions I just can't learn from. And then on the other hand, there are writers who just give such great insights into what you're doing.
That's true. That's true. And the writers group that you introduced me to, there are a few people I feel that are like that,
Yes, but it's not just there. I mean,
Sure.
in Santa Fe, it's there. It's no matter where you go. And the problem is, the real problem is, especially now where you can't go to LA and relocate or stuff like, you live in just, somewhere in the middle of Kansas, and you're a good writer. And I tell people, you need to surround yourself with other writers. Good or bad, you need to surround yourself with them, because you'll either learn because they're good or you'll learn because they're bad. But you need to surround yourself with them to see what other people are doing.
Right.
And this now is the only way to do it. And so many writers are being stifled because they're not around people. Think about it. Where could there be writers groups? Chicago, Santa Fe, only because it is becoming an entertainment hub. I'm sure Atlanta has really
That's
good
true.
writers groups.
Right.
Probably in New York City, there's an abundance of them. LA, thousands of them. And maybe in San Francisco, I couldn't tell you.
Good point.
But if you're, my advice to anybody out there who sees this anywhere, and I'm speaking just about the United States. Certainly when you pass me this link along for this podcast, I'm going to pass it along to friends in other countries. And it's the same to you, find groups of writers, and not always, your genre of writers. Don't join a romantic comedy group or a sci-fi group. Join a group that is, well-rounded, so that you could see, and make sure that they are at least following the rules of one book. Okay, people come to me and say, I got so-and-so's book on how to write this, William Goldman's book on this, and Sid Field's book on this, and I tell them all the same thing. This is my opinion. This is my opinion. You buy 10 different books on how to write a screenplay, you're going to get 12 different concepts of how to write a screenplay.
Yeah.
There's one great book, and it's the most recent edition, because they're updated every few years, the most recent edition of the Screenwriter's Bible. Write the screenplay according to how they tell you to format it, and write it as far as things that need to be done according to the current rules, because even screenplay rules change every few years.
Sure.
If you do that, you will have the basis of all good screenwriting. And when you submit your screenplay, it won't be like William Goldman. Everybody thinks, oh, he wrote a bunch of great movies, therefore if I follow him. No, you won't write The Princess Bride. Okay? You have to have a story that's great to begin with, and you have to be a great storyteller like these people to tell it. So that's my opinion on that. Anybody else have any questions?
Well, Jon, it's been a lot of fun talking to you, and we always learn so much, but we probably have to wrap this up because we have another podcast, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But thanks for sharing all of your insights. That was really generous of you. And
my pleasure. Thank you
true.
for letting me promote my books, and hopefully you can edit all of this down to about 20 minutes.
Well, that's Kellie's the great editor. We don't want to cut
out any golden moments, but we'll do a little bit.
Well, we'll see. And hopefully we'll have you back in 2021, because I'm sure you have more stuff to promote, right?
Yeah, I will. I always do. I'm the king of self-promotion, okay?
You are. I think that's a good title for you. I was telling Kellie, I said, boy, Jon gets them to the things. He gets them to buy the books. He just gets them.
Well, it's interesting. You have a lot of interesting things to share. And like I said, that you are generous enough to share not only what you do, but to help other people. That's really nice.
True. That's true. Yeah, you're very patient that way, I think. Yeah.
So thank you. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you both very much. Thank you, Kellie. Thank you, Kimbra. And keep safe, everybody.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.